let's focus on the micros. ICICI Bank has been in focus the last couple of days. If yesterday was about how it was trimming its stake in ICICI Pru, today it's on the investors' radar thanks to news reports which are suggesting that the former Supreme Court Judge B.N. Sri Krishna is going to be looking into the allegations of conflict of interest concerning Chanda Kochhar, the chief of the bank, as well as her family members. Remember, it's the same ICICI board that first decided to give a clean chit to Chanda Kochhar and then 2 months later decided that it's going to set up a committee to look into all of these allegations. I'm now going to go across to Meera Sanyal, the former CEO and chairman at RBS. Good afternoon, Meera. This is Nayantara. Not the first time you and I are talking about ICICI Bank and deteriorating standards of corporate governance, the committee that is going to be looking into all of these allegations. I'm going to ask you what I asked earlier. Better late than never. It's still not official. This is a source-based story on how the Supreme Court Judge, former Supreme Court Judge B.N. Sri Krishna is going to be looking into it. Are you not only disappointed that maybe it took so long to get to the stage where they're going to be investigating, but you know, they're still not formally set up a committee to look into all of these allegations?
Well, Nayantara, as you say, I think certainly better late than never. And I certainly hope that it is Justice Sri Krishna who has been appointed, because he comes with an impeccable reputation of integrity. And he's also quite knowledgeable about, the financial sector, having been in charge of the FSRLC. The only question I have is whether he will have the time, because he's also looking at the privacy law, which is a law of great importance. But having said that, I think it's an excellent step, and I certainly hope that the information that is in the news is true and that he has been appointed to head this committee.
But ma'am, you think that this was likely to go this way? I mean, there had to be an outsider who is well renowned, and that's the way, you would have got this conflict of interest issue resolved?
Well, I think this is extremely healthy in the sense that the fact that they've appointed someone with, as I said, an impeccable reputation, someone who is highly respected in the industry, is a very good thing, not just for the bank, but also for Chanda. Because at the moment, what we have is a trial by media. Everyone has taken a view based on the limited information that is in the public domain, which is not fair to the bank. It's not fair to the depositors. It's not fair to the shareholders. It's not fair to Chanda. It's not fair to anyone. So the fact that we are going to have an independent committee headed by a highly respected judge, I think is an extremely good and positive development.
Meera, I'm going to take a stance and say don't shoot the messenger. Yes, it's a media trial. But where should it have been even conducted? I want to ask you that. The RBI says my hands are tied. I'm not autonomous enough. I'm not empowered. I personally interviewed the Secretary of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, who says this is not the government's role, it's the RBI's domain. We in the media at least have got photographs and visual images of Chanda Kochhar's immediate family members, including her husband, deposing before investigative agencies. So while you shoot the messenger, I want to once again ask, where should have any of this even been recorded? Who should be looking into it? And, isn't it about time that we clarify who should be looking at all of these deteriorating instances of corporate governance?
Well, I think that's a very fair point, Nayantara, and I wasn't intending to shoot the messenger. I think the media does play actually quite a useful role in many cases. The issue that you've pointed out is actually the nub of the matter. There is no clarity in terms of accountability and responsibility. And as you've correctly said, it's been a kind of pointing fingers match between the regulator and the Ministry of Finance. The point is that we need these standards of governance to be clarified. It's not just for private sector banks, it is also for the public sector banks. And as I've said before, what we are facing in the Indian banking system at the moment is a crisis. It is a systemic crisis, and which is now boiling down to a crisis of confidence and of trust and of credibility. So the ordinary person, the ordinary depositor, the ordinary shareholder is looking at all of this with a sense of deep suspicion and fear. And that's not a healthy thing for the economy. So I hope that, whatever these instances are, whether it is this particular case, whether it is the Nirav Modi case, whether it is the NPAs. We've just had a huge, massive amount of write-offs just declared yesterday. All of this should be a trigger to bring about systemic changes. First, let's be very, very clear who is accountable. I mean, where does the buck stop? Does it stop with the RBI? Does it stop with the chairman of a bank? Does it stop with the Ministry of Finance? Does it stop with the PMO? Does it stop with the Minister of Finance? Where does it stop? Let's all be clear as to who is accountable. And then let's create the governance structure that gives the people who are accountable oversight and responsibility. Because at the moment, it's a divided house. In fairness, many heads of banks, certainly of the public sector banks, feel that they don't have any autonomy and that they are forced to do things at the behest of politicians or bureaucrats. Now, whether that is true or not, I think that is a widely held belief. In the private sector banks, clearly we have seen some instances of certainly allegations of unbecoming conduct, and that is also not good. So we need to have clarity in terms of accountability and responsibility, and I think we also need to have a regime that punishes people slightly more stringently than is currently there. And I've pointed this out. This has happened post the financial crisis in other jurisdictions such as the UK, where heads of banks are held accountable for acts of omission and commission, which have caused damage to the bank's reputation or to depositor money or to shareholder money if they were in charge. And I think it's time that we have those kind of discussions in India to see what can be done.
Meera, my final question to you, and I like I said, this is not the first time we're talking about this entire saga. The last time we spoke, you did suggest that, had you been in Chanda's shoes, maybe you would have temporarily stepped aside, just so that all of this could be cleared up. We've also read news reports today about how the nomination committee has drafted a succession plan. The hunt for the next CEO is very much on. Again, maybe better late than never, or maybe, you should not be taking place before the independent committee clears the air as far as all of the allegations goes. But whichever way you look at it, Chanda Kochhar's term does end in 2019. How do you see this panning out?
Well, Nayantara, I think the whole thing I personally believe has been quite unfortunate. I've said it before, I would have recused myself. But, it's hard to speak for anyone else or to walk in their shoes. I don't know what is going on in Chanda's mind, and I have a great deal of sympathy for anyone in this position, because it seems that a lot of people have adjudged her guilty before she's had a chance to present her defense. So let's hope that the investigation is indeed transparent and free and fair, and that the facts come out, and, whatever is decided on the basis of something which is just to all concerned. As far as the succession planning is concerned, this is a necessary step for all CEOs of all companies, not just of banks. So I don't know whether this is something which is extraordinary. I would imagine that not just ICICI, but other banks would have had succession planning in place. And you don't just do it 1 year before a CEO resigns. Typically, this is done 4 or 5 years, where you look at all the internal candidates and possible external candidates. I mean, this is just good governance practice. So I don't know whether the two are interrelated, but I would imagine that this is a good practice which all companies and all banks should be following.
Yeah. Okay, Meera, we're going to have to leave it at that. Always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us this Friday afternoon. That's the latest as far as ICICI Bank goes. It's been in the news this entire week, whether it's to trim down its stake in ICICI Pru or the succession plan that seems to have been or almost formalized as far as Chanda Kochhar's term in 2019 is ending.